Hello and welcome to Charity's Treasures. Today's category is Dream Vision Reflection Sunday, which is named that because most Sundays we will be talking about a dream or vision that happened in a book of scripture. And today I'm just going to go over some of the dreams and visions that men and women had in the Old Testament, because if I went through every book of scripture, we would be here for a long time. So I'm just going to mention some that are in the Old Testament. And I'm also going to talk about what dreams are, the different kinds of dreams, and how maybe many of you are having these, and this information might be valuable to you. And we will be talking about a lot of these type of dreams throughout the year as we go through the visions and dreams that people in the books of scripture had, which will be important because I think that's kind of like a topic this year, especially like with Candace. She's talking a lot about dreams and visions. A lot of other people now are talking about dreams and visions, and I think this is an important topic that needs to be discussed that usually isn't, or maybe even isn't considered valuable because, oh, what? It's just a dream, right? But I don't believe that dreams are just dreams. Let's see. So, men with dreams or visions in the Old Testament were Abraham. He received visions regarding the covenant and his descendants, right? Abimelech warned in a dream not to touch Sarah. Balaam had visions while blessing Israel. Jacob had multiple dreams, including the ladder to heaven, which is one we will be discussing this year. Laban warned by God in a dream concerning Jacob. Joseph, the son of Jacob, he had dreams and visions of ruling over his brothers. Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker. Joseph interpreted these dreams while they were in prison. And these are really important dreams, which we will be talking about this month because they are in the Come Follow Me. So you can also follow that on my Substack because every week I post what I learned from Come Follow Me. We have Pharaoh, who dreamed of the fat cows and the lean cows and the ears of corn and the bad ears of corn. We had a Midianite soldier who dreamed of cake and barley bread overturning a tent. We had Samuel experienced a vision calling him as a prophet. Nathan received a vision regarding David's house. Solomon, God appeared to him in a dream in Gibeon offering him wisdom. Micaiah, I might be saying some of these names wrong, saw a vision of the Lord sitting on his throne. Nebuchadnezzar had a dream of future kingdoms, and this was interpreted by Daniel. And Daniel had received numerous dreams and visions, including of the four beasts. Gideon had heard a Midianite man tell a dream, which encouraged him. Sometimes just hearing dreams encourages, so I think that's important. Prophets like Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and Zechariah, they all had dreams and saw symbolic visions as part of their prophetic ministry. Women also had dreams or visions. They were also referred to as prophetesses. Miriam was recognized as a prophetess. Deborah, she was a prophetess and judge who received divine insight. Huldah, a prophetess consulted by King Josiah, and Isaiah's wife, identified as a prophetess. So some women even were dreamers in the Old Testament. Okay, so one important thing about dreams is not all recipients of the dreams in the Old Testament were faithful to God. Pharaoh and Nebuchadnezzar were not obedient to God. In these instances, I noticed that these men called faithful servants who were obedient to God to interpret their dreams because they did not know what the interpretation of the dreams were. The baker and the cupbearer had Joseph interpret their dreams. So these were also men who maybe were not evil men, but their dreams were significant, and we learned a lot from those dreams. So they were a significant learning opportunity for us. This experience with Joseph and the baker and the cupbearer was also necessary for Joseph's purpose to be manifested with Pharaoh. We must keep this valuable information in mind when we think about dreams and visions. This indicates to us that everyone Even those who are not following God or obedient to God can have prophetic dreams, right? We can be witnesses to those dreams concerning their evaluation and can assess them to some degree as we learn their purposes. And as we participate in this process, we can use them to understand our personal dreams, helping us understand what information God desires to reveal to us. So today is just a lot of information, but I think it's important information. Dreams can warn, give spiritual direction, give comfort and knowledge, discuss future and past events, and disclose future and past events, and many other manifestations required for us to understand what God desires to reveal to us. There are many categories of dreams. We can have a simple dream, a lucid dream, a nightmare, a daydream, waking visions, and also sleep paralysis, and sometimes even hallucinations. So we're going to just go over a little bit of what each of these dreams is. So a lucid dream. What is a lucid dream? It is a state where you are aware you are dreaming while still asleep. I've had many of these lucid dreams. So this allows for varying degrees of conscious control over the dream's content, characters, and environment. So while you're in a lucid dream, you begin to control the dream. And it's actually a very cool experience. It takes a long time to get there, though. It's not like when you first start dreaming, you're going to have lucid dreams, because it takes practice to be in a lucid dream and to even know that you're in a dream where you can begin to control what you do in the dream. It's really an amazing experience, but at the same time, it takes experience to be able to get to the point where you can maneuver in the dream. So you might have a lucid dream where you feel like you're awake, but maybe you don't necessarily feel like you have control over it. The control of the dream takes a long time. We're going to be talking a lot about lucid dreams this year, especially in the form of like the Charlie Kirk investigation, because I think it's fascinating that all these people are talking about dreams now. So, and if you go to my Substack, there'll be more information on lucid dreams. But it is the ability to control the dream. The ability to control the dream can help dreamers counter negative narratives in nightmares. It can provide a unique space for creative exploration and problem solving. Okay, so that's what lucid dreams are. They're often very vivid and feel real. And although sometimes maybe they aren't real, but I think sometimes they could be real. So lucid dreaming is relatively common as a one-time experience. So what they say is a lot of people don't have this experience in lucid dreaming. It says roughly 50 to 55% of people experience lucid dreaming, and they only experience it once. So I like lucid dreams. I like that feeling of being in dreamland and knowing you're in dreamland and being able to start to control the dream and make your own decisions in the dream as if it is real life. So we'll be talking a lot about that this year. A second type of dream is a nightmare, which is a vivid, frightening dream occurring during REM sleep that causes strong negative emotions like fear, anxiety, or terror, often waking the sleeper. They are common in children, but affect all ages, which is similar to a night terror. Night terrors are nightmares that are vivid dreams that wake you up. So if you're in a terror, they wake you up, while the terrors are abrupt, partial awakenings where the person may scream or thrash but remain partially asleep, often with no memory of the event. I had two children that, especially when they were young and even into being older, they had night terrors. And I had no idea that these night terrors existed, and they are really scary when you see someone going through them, because you try to wake them up and you cannot wake them up. And one thing about night terrors, what I've learned, is that they come especially to children because the children experience some event that might be disturbing to them. The two kids that I have that have these terrors, before they were 1 year old, they both had surgeries. And I believe that that's why they had the terrors. It took me a long time to figure out that that there was a definition to this, but I think that's why they had them, is because before they were one, it was kind of a traumatic event for them to have these surgeries at such a young age. Even though as they got older, they don't remember it. But, even when you're a baby, you experience things that you don't maybe remember, but they affect you your entire life maybe. So another category or type of dream is a daydream, which is a pleasant, imaginative, or visionary thought or sequence of mental imagery experienced while awake. So daydreaming is daydreaming. So it acts as a temporary escape into a mental world, right? Often involving future plans, past memories, or wishful scenarios. These mental scenarios generally occur during a low-level brain activity when the brain's default mode network is active. So we all daydream, in different ways, but I think that's good. And we're going to talk about someone in the New Testament who was a daydreamer in just a minute. So another type of dreaming is waking visions or dreams. So a vision is a vivid, dream-like image, scene, or sensory experience that occurs while a person is awake, often during the transition into and out of sleep. So if you go to my Substack, you'll be able to read a little bit more about this. But one thing I think is interesting about this, it says they can include geometric patterns, flashes of light, detailed moving scenes, and seeing people, objects, or hearing sounds that fade as one becomes fully awake. So, in a spiritual or religious context, a waking vision is sometimes interpreted as a divine revelation or a message. So, these are interesting visions. I would say that I just started having visions maybe the last 3 years. I think after you go through lucid dreaming and things like that, then maybe that's when the visions probably start. But it is interesting because it's right. What they say here is this is what you see. And it is after you've been done dreaming and you're starting to wake up and you are awake, but I don't know, I think probably because you were in dreamland, that affects what you see when you're awake. And it is crazy. I remember the first time this happened to me, and it was like such a weird experience. I was thinking to myself, am I really seeing this? But after a while, you're like, wow, that is really cool, because it's not like just you're seeing black and white. Like they say, you can see the patterns, flashes of light, but you actually see color. You actually see something, and you want to hold on to it, and you try to hold on to it as much as you can. But when your body fully becomes awake, it starts to disappear. And so I'm sure there's people who are listening to this that might have experienced this, and it's an awesome experience. But you really want it to keep lasting so you can keep continuing seeing what you're seeing. But anyways, that is a waking vision or a waking dream. Mostly they're called visions. So another type of dream is sleep paralysis. During an episode of sleep paralysis, you are conscious, like you're what's happening, but you're unable to move or speak. One of the primary differences between sleep paralysis and other sleep states, such as dreaming and nightmares, is that you are awake during an episode of sleep paralysis. So if you watched my podcast last year, I kind of described a little bit of a dream I had that I was in sleep paralysis. So when I got sick last year, that's what kind of sleep paralysis was. But if you were following some of my episodes this week, when I talked about dreams I had since I was a little girl and into my adulthood, this is the kind part of what was going on with me is sleep paralysis. And I've never even heard of it. I didn't know what it was. But now I didn't know there was a definition for it, but there is a definition for it. And so this is something that I experienced for a long time in my life. And if you want to read more about that, you can go to my Substack. But sleep paralysis is very interesting. And then they have hallucinations. With hallucinations, a lot of hallucinations come from maybe drug abuse, things like that. I've heard a lot of people have hallucinations that use drugs. Sometimes they can have mental disorders, people with mental disorders like schizophrenia, or maybe you have sleep deprivation, you can have an hallucination. And what a hallucination, it's a false sensory perception that feels real but occurs without any external stimulus. So sometimes people cause hallucinations by what they're putting in their body and things like that. So Anna was considered a prophetess in the New Testament. Anna was not officially recorded as having dreams and visions, and she was also in the New Testament. So Anna was sort of like a daydreamer. I'm bringing her up because she was considered a prophetess, and I think it's interesting that her daydreaming was very important. So she was a dedicated holy servant of God, and she had divine insight because she consistently devoted her life to God. So how did she devote her life to God? Anna was a saintly woman of sincere prayer, dedicated fasting, committed temple attendance, and devotion to spiritual activities. When Anna saw the baby Jesus in the temple, all her past divine experiences led her to that point. She was told that she would see the baby Jesus and that she would prophesy of this event, and she does in the Bible. She had spiritual gifts. She had the gift of discernment. Because of the gift of discernment, she could discern truth pertaining to the work of God. In the scriptures, in Luke chapter 2, it said that she served God day and night with fasting and prayers. When she saw and was a witness of Jesus Christ blessing in the temple, she knew who he was because she was told before, through daydreaming, inspiration, revelation, which is kind of like daydreaming in a little way. And she had discussed this with other people also. And when she saw Jesus, she was filled with the Spirit while she was in the temple, and she was a witness to his divinity and the reality of him existing, right? Anna is more described as a daydreamer than an actual night dreamer or visionary. It is important that we recognize daydreaming as a part of the process of understanding who God is pertaining to receiving revelation and inspiration to the point of divine action needed to be performed from us for him. So daydreaming is important because through daydreaming, we receive revelation and we are inspired through daydreaming. So daydreaming isn't just something that we should not consider as it pertains to dreaming, because Anna was a daydreamer. She was someone who could discern what was real through her daydreaming. And I think that she is a perfect example of daydreaming. So we will be discussing these types of dreams and visions throughout the year. We will identify, as we study in the Old Testament and other books of Scripture, what dreams are experienced by the people dreaming them. So when I talk about these dreams and visions, like Lehi's dream next week, we will talk about what kind of dreaming that was, right? So I think it's very interesting. I love that Candace is bringing up the topic of dreams and visions, because I think that this is something that God has told us in the last days. Little children will have dreams and visions, right? We're going to talk about a little bit more about that, but this is a real thing. Having dreams, vision, they do present reality in a specific kind of way. And I think that's important to understand. So I hope that this wasn't too boring. Oh, my Book of Mormon fell. I hope this wasn't too boring. But it was more like an information episode. So, but if you want to read it, you can go to my Substack. And keep all these things in mind, study them, learn about them, so you'll understand what we're talking about in the future. Bye, everybody.